and welcome back to another video. Today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to take a very first look at what I think is the most exciting feature of Update 25, which is the addition of Event Lab 2.0. Quickly before we start looking at the Event Lab 2.0 features that have been added, there are some new visual customization options for a couple of cars. Firstly, the 2018 BMW M5 has some AC Schnitzer parts, so there's two different versions of the front lip. There's also two different rear spoiler options, a rear diffuser in carbon fibre, and some side skirts. Similarly, the BMW i8 from 2015 has an AC Schnitzer front. It's a bit more extreme than the parts on the M5. It also has a rear wing, a rear bumper option, some side skirts, and a bonnet. That's not all though. As you can see, there are a whole selection of new Vorsteiner wheels in here. Most of them in this section, but also some in multi-piece rims. They are all quite similar, but I think I'm going to put these ones on the i8 for now. So then, on to Event Lab 2.0 itself, which I think is the most exciting feature of this update. So the biggest part of Event Lab 2.0, among a few other things, is that there's a new Event Lab island that's like a blank canvas to work from. So to get to it, there's a fast travel point up here. So let's fast travel to that fast travel point and go and take a look at this new location. So then, just like both DLC expansions, Hot Wheels and the Rally expansion, you're fast travelled to a new location where you spawn in with other players. It's just like a third expansion, essentially, but a free one. So then you have this 2 kilometre by 2 kilometre, well, area to just drive. Although, be careful not to fall off the edge, because there's a great big ocean out there. There. So the good thing about this is not only are there players everywhere, but you can go into the pause menu and change car. Just like that. So yeah, this is a brilliant sort of playground area to mess about with before we've even got into the Event Lab part of it. Anyway, if we want to create a route, just like on the mainland, there is a build stub. So we simply go over here, where this rather lovely Carrera GT is, and go on create route. So the interesting thing with this is, it's a 2 kilometre by 2 kilometre square platform, but if I quickly open up the map, you see this grid that goes all the way out here. Yeah, you can use all of that, so let's have a quick count of how many squares this is. Each one's 500. So it's actually a 9,000 metre square that you have to work with, not a 2,000 metres. So 9 kilometres by 9 kilometres of space to work with. Obviously, this is more than big enough for most things we're going to want to build anyway, so we're unlikely to have to build outwards like that. So from a glance, it might just look like a big square concrete platform, but it's divided up into squares that are all the same size, and then we have these lines and sort of markers and things, so that you can line things up straight and get distances between things correct. So it's actually really helpfully done. They've done this really cleverly. The other thing you can do, much like in photo mode, you can change the time of day now. So if we put it to evening and then go back, it'll dip to black, and then it'll just seamlessly be a different time of day, which is going to be super helpful when you're trying to visualize what your route would look like in different lighting. So as ever, when there's a new Event Lab update, I've placed out all of the new props that have been added. I believe there are 201 of them, if I've counted correctly, and if I've managed to find all of them, they were hidden through different categories. So we've got the different ground coverings, the concrete, the earth, the grass, the snow, and the tarmac. Then we have all of the primitive basic shapes, each of them available in 8 colours of kind of plastered concrete and the bare concrete. So there's 9 versions of each shape. All of them have attachment nodes, as you can see, so that's quite helpful. We'll get onto why that is particularly helpful in a minute on one of the other features. So yeah, there's a whole selection of things here, so you could make almost anything out of these. Then there's the new racing props, apparently. I'm not really sure how they're racing, but anyway, there's a bridgy tunnely bit, and there's a sort of pit garage. I'm not sure if these guys are new or not, but I certainly haven't seen them in Event Lab before. Haven't looked for a little while. Same with the little boat, so I could be wrong on those. I think the little flask thing's new. These things certainly are, because they're from Summer Party, although, again, that might have been added last update. But yeah, they're all new to me. Then we have the 3 lighting things. Actually, that's a good point. The white one isn't new, but the green and blue versions of the sort of backdrops are now available. There's these stickers as well, available in a selection of different colours, the shells and starfish. There's this sort of inflatable donut and these. Then this bit's very exciting. There are some bits for us to make petrol stations with. Again, these are also available in all of those different colours. So there's 9 of those, and 9 pumps, and 9 pavements, and 9 columns. And we'll get to the ceiling roofy bits in a minute, because there's also a giant coffee cup and a fire extinguisher. But yes, here we have the roofy bits, again available in 9 colours. Now there are actually differences between these. These ones have 2 lights underneath. This one has 1 light underneath, and these ones also have 2 lights underneath. But I think they may be different sides. Yeah, there we go, look. So this has got a sort of coloured bit on this side. This, I believe, will then have a coloured bit on... Yeah, that's like a corner piece. And then this one doesn't have any because it goes in the middle. So that's why some of them have 2 and 1 light, depending on where they are in the roof. And then finally, we've got a horizon sign. Of course we have. So along with these basic shapes, they've added an option to group things together, which is why they're particularly useful. So if I place 3 of these cubes here, we can then go into selection mode by pressing the right joystick down, and then add these to selection. Then we can press Y to save it. We take a photo of it to give other people an idea what it looks like, because we can share these and allow other people to download props that you've created. So you can save it in here. Then once it's been saved, if we scroll across from shapes all the way to very nearly at the end here, you can see my prefabs, where you can then select this object and place it. Other thing you can do if you don't want to select each block individually is you can go into selection mode, then if you hold down, a gradually increasing sphere will appear. So if we do that again over here for these 2, you just do it until they're both in the sphere, then they're in the selection, and then we now have all 3 of these selected, at which point we could then save them again. You may also have noticed that next to the My Prefabs tab, there's a Community Prefabs tab. So if we go on that, we can then search for, well, things people have grouped together already, which, as you can see, there are some quite incredible ones. We've got the trending ones, we've got new, all-time greats probably doesn't exist yet, friends and followed, so we've got some sort of prefabs there. So yeah, you can sort very brilliantly. What I've noticed though is these Casa 1, presumably there's a 2 somewhere, and 3 look particularly cool, but there's all sorts. Look, there's a full petrol station, there's a drag strip. It's amazing what people have shared. You can group up to 100 props together, by the way, which is why some of these are quite so impressive. So I'm going to straight away place that house down and see what that looks like. So this is interesting. It's kind of a mixture of the prefab building with some interesting other bits on the front. Okay, this garage is pretty incredible, although given how everything snaps together, things like this probably don't take that long to build anymore. So, yeah, given that you can download entire things like this, and even though there's not anything that quite matches what you're looking for, you can make your own probably very quickly. It's going to mean there's so many more super impressive maps super quickly, especially built on this island. So, well, let's see what we can come up with. I think some kind of city slash circuit, city circuit kind of thing might be cool. So, yeah, I'll go in and see what I can come up with very quickly using a mixture of prefab things and my own stuff. Okay, so you'd think being able to put 100 props into your prefabricated prop would be enough, but I've just tried to make a straight that's, well, 10 straight racetrack pieces long with walling at either side, and apparently that's the limit here. So, yeah, 100 props isn't actually that many when you start trying to make things, so that's slightly disappointing. So by reducing it slightly to 8 pieces of straight track, I've been able to group it as a prop and share it. So yeah, it's here. The only problem I find with these is you then lose your attachment nodes. So even if I was to clone this, it would be helpful if it would then snap to itself like the individual road pieces would have done before they were in a group, because otherwise you have to sort of manually line these up. But yeah, small complaint really, amongst all of the greatness of this update so far. Another interesting thing that I've discovered whilst playing about with this is that, well, you can add other people's prefabs to your prefab selection. So this pit garage that I've downloaded, I can add to a selection, but unfortunately, it's already made of 100 props, so I can't group it with anything, but that's still a feature of this. You can put other people's prefabs into your own prefab and make a prefab. So then, this is what I've very quickly managed to build. Well, when I say very quickly, it probably took me about 3 hours of build time to make this, but given how long it would have taken to make something like this previously, I think that's pretty good, actually. So we've got quite a lot of prefabricated things in here that I've found. These corner pieces were quite useful, and these straights that people have made with curbing. This curbing, by the way, made up out of those cubes that we saw earlier, but as well as some buildings and things like this, which is great to sort of fill the spaces without using just the prefab skyscrapers. This, by the way, was all one prefabricated thing I downloaded, this selection of skyscrapers. Same with these little blocks of green ones. I particularly like these circular buildings. Probably quite easy to make, actually, if you use the step rotation tool. But yeah, to be able to just drop some of those in and drop a sort of variety of buildings in super quickly is really, really good to see. So yeah, I have also put in a pit lane, of course made up of prefabricated pit buildings. I've sort of customized them though. I've put some lighting and stuff on them, added that. I love that you can do that you can just sort of add your own things to other people's props. I've also downloaded groups of trees, which is super useful, although I've just noticed some of them are floating. Not that you're going to be able to see that when you're racing around here. I found some grandstand prefabs as well, which was super helpful, especially this long row of them that you can just drop in. I've of course got a T-Rex. But yeah, really cool to see. Again, this building I found, which is another cool one. Not sure why there's a hovering thing, but anyway. And things like lights that previously you'd have had to place one by one. This time you just place them one by one once, down one straight. Then I grouped them and I copied them here and over here. The other great thing about this is being able to change time of day is super helpful for lighting. Because previously I would sort of build something, share it, and then realise I hadn't really put enough lighting in to make it, well, realistic. I've just noticed there's a whole lack of lighting on this corner, so I might have to fix that. But yeah, being able to change it to nighttime makes it so much easier for placing lighting. You can see where the light's going to fall, which is super, super useful. One of the things that I didn't really think of until doing this. I think, though, with the prefabs for track, it doesn't quite work because things don't line up and, well, so far there only seems to be right angles and straights that have been shared. So I think for things like that, it's not going to work. But for detail, like having a row of lights that you can download and place, and buildings and things for backdrops, and, of course, stands, things like that, I think it's going to be super, super useful. The grouping and sharing and stuff of props. But yeah, for tracks themselves, I don't think it's really helped. The other thing I noticed is this seems like you'd think this was a huge platform, 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, but you can see I've kind of already... I know it's a super long straight I've put here, but it's not that long, and I've already kind of used up the length of it. Yes, you could extend to there and then have the buildings hovering over the sea, and I've kind of not used this section, because I've made quite a long, thin track. So if you made a sort of more traditional layout track, which I might try doing a kind of more substantial build at some point, I just wanted to quickly throw something together to show you how quickly you can end up with a sort of, well, result now. A reasonably good street circuit. I've crashed into a gantry. Yeah. Huge, huge, huge improvement. Making things like this really super easy and super quick to build now. So yes, once you're sharing your event, you can go onto here to create a custom flyer, which I think is absolutely brilliant for when you're looking for something. Knowing roughly what the track looks like before you jump into it is going to save so much time of going into... Well, basically, there's a lot of events that are sort of empty and disappointing when you get into them. So being able to see what an event's like before you get into it is absolutely brilliant. I'm not sure that shows my event in the best light, although it's interesting to see. This is cool. So this checkpoint here, I've only just noticed this checkpoint here is the start finish line checkpoint, which usually you can't see, and therefore you continuously miss it. As you can see, it's kind of preset to the standard width and you can't widen at the start finish line. So if you were to drive right up against this wall, you'd probably miss that. Usually you can't see it, but here you can. Interesting. Anyway, now we have to try and sell this blueprint, I suppose. How do we take an image that looks good? I think something like that is actually the best we're going to get, and it kind of shows you roughly what the circuit looks like. A bit. Let's try and get a similar poster for the nighttime one, so they sort of match. I think I put that in the middle, right? Probably close enough. So there we go. I have now shared 5-lap blueprints of the daytime and nighttime version of this circuit, if you want to give it a go. Not my best work, just kind of to show what can be done in a reasonably short length of time with the new tools and shared props and everything. But yeah, absolutely huge update to Event Lab. It's absolutely fantastic. I know some of these are just small kind of quality of life improvements, but they definitely needed doing. Being able to group and copy and paste has been highly requested, I think, for quite a long time. It is slightly a shame that once props are in a group, they no longer snap with the nodes they would have had previously, so that's slightly annoying. But yeah, overall, apart from that, it's been absolutely brilliant. The thumbnails for events and for props is a really cool way of doing it, so that you can see exactly what you're getting. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some really, really great creations coming out of this. I think I'll work on a kind of more proper race circuit next, rather than a street circuit. Try and make something rather cool here, because I've kind of tried to do that before in the stadium, but with the space constraint there, it's never quite worked. So hopefully we can make some kind of racetrack with a combination of all of my favourite corners from existing real-world tracks. But anyway, for today, for a very first look at Event Lab 2.0 and Update 25 here on Forza Horizon 5, that is going to be all. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back with the next video very soon.